once again, I'm gonna get some refreshing water for folks and maybe ask them to go along, starting with Janelle. Introduce yourself, tell a little bit about your firm and what you do there.
Okay, thanks. This is going to be interesting for everyone because I am actually not a recruiter. So I'll just say that in full disclosure, but hopefully when I explain what it is I do, you might understand a little bit better why they asked me to come, aside from the fact that I work in DC, and so I think I'm just physically close, but they flattered me. So I work for Wells Fargo. Hopefully you guys all know what that is. I would think at this point. Yes. So for those of you who haven't heard of us, we are obviously a very large bank here, full service lender. We are the #1 commercial real estate lender in the country, something we're very proud of. And I think by way of what I actually do, I actually did my MBA here at Georgetown, so I'm always happy to come and chat on panels and things like that. And I graduated in 2008 from McDonough and joined the credit management training program at Wells Fargo, straight out of my MBA program. Right after that, I went into our commercial real estate workout group, which is our real estate and managed assets group, is what it's called here at Wells, and was a relationship manager in that group for a number of years. And then actually got a call to manage our analysts in our analyst program on the East Coast, which I did for 3 years, and just cycled out of that program, managing the analysts, to now have gone back to our commercial real estate credit group, working for our chief credit officer of commercial real estate on a special project creating commercial real estate training infrastructure for the wholesale bank. So back to my original point, I am not a recruiter, but I've seen both sides, obviously having worked in the space and also having managed analysts and working very closely with the recruiting team. And like I said, I sit in DC. So hopefully I can give you some good perspective on both. I think it does help if you've obviously worked in the space and also worked with the recruiters. Hopefully I can give you some good perspective on what it is we're looking for, what makes you successful, why Wells Fargo is the absolute best place to work ever in the history of life, and hopefully...
and you can take that comment around to the other folks around
you
the
can
hall.
Take it.
Wait a minute, I need a speaker.
But, hello, that's me. Welcome.
And Jeff?
Well, I'll try to follow that. I was actually in New York yesterday meeting with your commercial real estate folks, with Wayne Brandt and Doug.
Well.
Yeah, and they said to us there that Wells Fargo was the #1 bank. So you definitely all have the same message that you try to deliver when you're speaking in public. I'm Jeff Majewski. I'm the Chief Administrative Officer for CBRE Capital Markets. I'm out of the Houston office. And when you look at capital markets, I think for all of us on the panel, we kind of use that name, that moniker, really much the same. Capital markets meaning both the debt and equity finance side of the business as well as the investment sales side of the business. Up until middle of this year, I spent almost my entire career on the mortgage banking side, but I picked up the additional responsibility of now overseeing our investment sales practice from an administrative standpoint as well as mortgage banking. So, now I'm learning a perspective about the sales side of the business as well as having a lot of experience on the debt side. And we heard it a little bit on the first panel about how debt and sales are really merging together, and we're working much closer together than what we've done in the past. And it does present some really unique career opportunities relative to the mortgage banking space, because you now get to broaden your experience to go beyond just finance to actually get into the sales side of the business. So we'll probably go into a little bit more of that as we go through the panel discussion. But as the CAO, I do have a lot of interaction on the HR front as well as the recruiting front. So I, too, am not officially a recruiter, but I will be able to kind of tell you what we're looking for, which is the same thing that Janelle said. So I'll pass it off to Mike.
Mike Wisniewski, Head of Human Resources for Arbor Commercial Mortgage and Arbor Realty Trust. Unlike some of the other firms that are here, we're more of a small boutique firm. We have about 350 employees, primarily in and around the New York, Boston, Buffalo area. We're about a $2.5 billion lender. So we're a little bit different type of organization compared to some of the larger firms, and I guess I'll consider us more of one of those gritty firms. A smaller shop that we spend a lot of time actually looking at our competition, niche business, and one of the things that we do, like every other organization does, is actually look at what's the best area, what's the niche business we want to go after. Consequently, that has an effect on the staff you're going to use to get that business. You both had mentioned you're not really recruiters. I beg to differ a little bit because I had a discussion this morning with one of my director of recruitment, and we were talking about couple of the line managers and what an asset they are to us. We go as the HR people go in, and my approach is, my job is to help you run your business, and consequently, we've got it. And how we can make ourselves valuable is by bringing in, they'll help you put those pieces together. And we've got a lot of great managers who actually do take a lot of time and are always recruiting, looking, trying to develop people. So that's us. I think the good news for everyone out here, it's a great marketplace, better than it's been quite some time. With all you heard from the executives, with all the flood of money coming into the business, there's been a lot of money sitting on the sidelines for a long time. And as that business, money's getting back in the business, well, those organizations need people to help the infrastructure. Every organization wants to have the infrastructure in place before they bring in a lot of business. What that means is if there's new business coming out, you only have two choices. Either you kind of grow from within or you take off the shelf, which is going to create some opportunities. And so I think it's a good time for everybody in this room to be looking for a job and being in a situation like this.
And so, Janelle, what kinds of people are you looking for? You mentioned the analyst program. Is that the major entry point for you all? And then what does that mean for your recruiting and the types of people?
Sure. So Wells Fargo is obviously a pretty big place. So a lot of the divisions will have their own analyst, associate, and more advanced hire programs as well. But that being said, although there are a lot of programs, primarily for commercial real estate, the financial analyst program is just generally for wholesale banking, is one of our largest gateways into the company. We also have some more seasoned positions that we do post for. So there are a couple recruiters here that can probably talk about some other opportunities. But primarily, we do hire, on average, about 200 plus analysts a year who remain in our analyst program for 3 years. There's also investment banking, capital markets. They also have, obviously, their seasoned analyst and associate programs as well. But to answer your question, because that's not really what you asked me, who we're looking for, and you'll hear this all the time because really everyone's looking for the same folks. I think it goes without saying we're looking for folks who are smart and hardworking and passionate about what they do. Like was mentioned on the leaders panel earlier, no one goes into banking thinking that they're getting out at 3 p.m., right? You spend a lot of time in the office, you spend a lot of time with your team, a lot of time with your customers. And so if you're going to spend more time with us than you will with your families, you should like and be really excited about what you're doing during the day. So folks that are passionate, which, again, you'll probably hear that from everyone. Wells Fargo culturally, as you may be able to tell, we like to have fun when we're at work. We want to feel, we try not to feel like we're at work all the time. We want to hire folks that are really excited about being on the stagecoach. We do spend a lot of time together, but we are definitely looking for folks that play well in the sandbox with others, folks that are there to make it a team effort. They say there's no I in team. I guess that's true. But essentially, we're really looking for folks that are happy to be there, that are intellectually inquisitive, hardworking, and that are really looking for a home. We try to retain as many of our analysts and associates as we can. We're not a churn and burn kind of shop where you come in and you work for us for 2 years and then We want to see you go elsewhere. We retain about 65% of our analysts over a 5-year period. And for those that go through our associate level training, we retain about 85%. And that is a goal of ours, to really build our bench strength from within rather than having to consistently go through the market, because we do have a very particular culture at Wells Fargo. And the best way for us to maintain that culture is to grow people into that culture and keep them essentially forever until they retire or die. So.
Jeff?
Well, I would agree with everything that Janelle says, except we're not allowed to have fun at work. We have to take it seriously. I echo, Janelle, all of your comments. I mean, when we're going through, and this is really me from a personal standpoint, because I do interact with the candidates once the recruiting arm of CB has kind of teed up some individuals for us to meet with. And you know, we really do look for individuals that have a desire and a passion. And I know it's kind of hard for passion to come out in an interview, but you are looking for that individual. We are looking for those individuals that really want to make a career out of mortgage banking or investment sales or any of the lines of business at CBRE. I mean, with 40-some-odd thousand global employees, at any point in time in our company, we have several thousand positions open. Go to CBRE.com. You can log in. We have all of our positions posted. And so we're constantly in the market recruiting individuals to come into the company. And I can just tell you personally from my experience, it is that interview. It is the individual that comes in prepared, understanding the mortgage banking business or just understanding the business that they're in to interview, the position that they're interviewing for, really stands out. And it's the dialogue, and it's asking the right questions. And maybe it doesn't even have to be the right question. It's just asking questions. Don't make the recruiter, don't make the person interviewing you ask all the questions. Be inquisitive. Want to know about the company. Want to know about, the last couple of analysts that hired, where are they in the company? Because we have a significant initiative around organic growth. Because we are a public company, and just similar to Wells Fargo, I mean, you constantly have to grow your revenue. I mean, that is what the market expects. That's what your shareholders expect. And you can do that in a number of different ways. And our focus the last 2 years has been organically growing and focusing on those individuals and those employees that are ready for the next step in their career, or maybe they're not ready, but we're going to really try to help push them. And we have been very, very successful on the mortgage front in promoting up analysts into the sales production roles. So it takes a conscious effort on the employer, because you're taking someone out of, it could be a very critical line position to move them up to the next step in their career, but you have to do that for the individual. And if you truly are focusing on organic growth, you have to help everyone kind of grow, grow through the organization, not around the organization.
And Mike?
I would agree with everything that they both said. Interesting, we're a much smaller firm of just 350 people by design. Our CEO is a tremendous entrepreneur. He wants to keep it that way. He's said that we don't have to be the biggest, but we want to be the best. And consequently, even though it's a smaller organization, you're constantly recruiting, you're constantly looking to develop people. We understand, both from an HR point of view, senior management point of view, that especially if you're looking to get your first job, well, it's not going to be your last job. Although we'd like to maybe think you're going to retire from our respective firms, if we don't give you that career opportunity, ultimately, after you pay your dues, you're going to move on. So, and we know that we can't keep everyone. So what do? Maybe not as formal as some of the larger organizations, but the same idea. We talk about career pathing. Everybody wants to know. Everybody in this room wants to know about themselves. How does my organization affect you? Where do I fit in? And you can't walk in with that attitude, but we understand that. When you're coming in, you want to. We look for people who are. We know you're smart. Otherwise, you wouldn't be here. And you heard this from some senior executives earlier. Resourceful, flexible, adaptable. What can I do to make your job easier? How can I learn? Those things sound very basic, but it's interesting. It's been repeated both on the associate level just a short while ago, as well as everyone on this panel. So it's important, and you have a limited amount of time to make that impression. So, as you said before, do your homework, find out as much as you can about the organization, talk to people, ask a lot of good questions, and portray that fact that we look for people who are very bright, hungry, confident, but also a little bit humble. A little bit humble, because you don't know it all. And you're here to learn, you're here to grow, and consequently, our job is to give you the tools to be successful. And in fact, as long as that happens, it's going to be a long, successful environment. Our company, although relatively small, we're also a public firm. My CFO has been with the firm for 24 years. He's 47. He started off as an accountant. The COO of the organization started off 26 years ago. He's 52 as an analyst when we had a residential division. And what's interesting, and you heard some of the other early associates and some of the other executives, that it's interesting how almost sometimes by chance or just by sometimes by design that you build up a reputation inside their organization. People know you, and consequently that opportunity that comes along, they know you, they trust you, they know you're smart, and they may put you in. I forget who it was, and one of the ladies in the first panel said she wound up running a division she knew nothing about. Well, someone had the confidence in her that she could do that, and that's what you do. Somewhere along the line, it starts in the very beginning. That's the other young lady sitting here earlier said, you pay your dues, now she's doing some fun stuff. It's not always fun. Well, that's why it's called work. But you come in with the right attitude, positive attitude, and embrace everything's in front of you. It definitely gets noticed.
Well, and Mike, great points. What I will also add is that there's so many different paths that your career can take in this industry. It's not just the analytical underwriting, sales, production into the business. I mean, we heard from individuals that are in asset management and loan servicing, and Skylar from an operations standpoint. I mean, my career has been throughout every single part of the mortgage banking business, from sales to management to HR, accounting, paper, you name it. I've been in every single part of the business. So when you look at the broad spectrum of mortgage banking, there's so many different buckets to really excel and have a career and have a successful career in that particular aspect of the business. And as you look at firms, such as, you have CBRE, Grace with Capital One, your career is not just limited to that mortgage banking within these organizations. You can get into sales, you can get into global corporate services. I mean, there's really an unlimited opportunity, but having that base of understanding kind of the financial part of the real estate business really helps catapult you throughout your career, because you know how the capital stack works to be able to have this real estate asset either be built or have it be acquired. And that's what can kind of help you leverage your career throughout the business. But it's not just limited to analysts and underwriters. I mean, there's many important critical aspects of the business that are all lucrative. And many of us have spent our entire careers in the business in one form or the other.
And Janelle, thinking about building on that comment, there are so many different parts of the industry that people come in and then they can sort of find their spot, whether that be on the production side, the servicing side, the admin side. There are lots of different types of things going on. Is that right? Yeah,
absolutely. And, companies are going to differ, but I can speak on behalf of Wells Fargo. What we do frequently encourage all team members, junior, senior, otherwise, is to round out your skills by way of moving around the organization. We are looking for folks that are going to be well-rounded corporate team members, not necessarily you can only do one thing, you're only an investment banker or you're only a recruiter, or we do highly encourage folks to move around, because that's also the best way to figure out where you really do fit. This is my third job at Wells Fargo. I will probably, if they let me, work here forever. But I also need to feel like I'm constantly being challenged, doing things that I've never had a problem. I've never had a manager discourage me from doing that. And actually, Managers encourage you to network across the organization. Managers will even encourage you to network outside of the organization. This is a relationship business, like we talked about earlier. All your mentors and all your friends are not going to work at your firm. It's important to get to understand what other areas of the business, what they do. Because, you know, we're all young, including myself. You know, but you guys are, you know, graduating from either, you know, undergrad or business school. And you always think you know what you want to do a lot of times when you're coming out. And you think you know what you want to do based on what you're aware of in most cases. And so there often are things that you just don't know exist until you're out there. So, you know, we do encourage you guys, you keep your eyes open, even if you're at a new company. That doesn't mean jump around and constantly be looking for the next thing. You know, learn to be an expert at one thing before you're ready to move on to something else. But it's okay to, again, just keep those information channels open so that you can figure out what else is out there. And by way of sort of doing that, you really can end up doing that thing that you really are meant to be doing.
To add to that, my chairman has been a guest speaker at Columbia, Harvard, and Wharton. Usually talks to the real estate, you know, kind of club or whatever might be there. And I've already heard him say a number of times, he said, he talks to the audience, no matter what part of the industry you're interested in, maybe you want to be in development, maybe you want to be in sales, maybe you want to be an owner and whatever it might be. The foundation of this industry, as someone said before, is underwriting. How do you underwrite the deal? You're not going to use your own money. How do you structure the deal? How you structure that deal is critical. And the idea for us, I'm sure your firms as well, if you understand the underwriting, it truly is a foundation and relationship management. And so you develop your career either as a technical expert or possibly then you move into management or a combination of both. But certainly understanding the business and the foundation, really digging in, and relationship management. What's interesting about this industry, it's just amazing to me. I've been just here for 10 years, but I spent a lot of years on Wall Street, HR related, but never involved in this industry till 10 years ago. Is truly, it is a small group. The reputation of the organization, the reputation of the individual. So it is all about reputation. It's all about kind of relationship management. And I've met many of our clients over the years, and I always, they form a relationship with that particular originator, and that oftentimes supersedes the relationship with the firm. It's that person that they trust that's looking out for my interest. And that's also part of the job, internally and externally.
Yeah, I mean, and Mike, I'll also add that it is a small industry. I mean, it is a small world. And if you really think about what we do, none of us have a secret recipe. There is no secret to our business. We don't have this super secret process that's better than everybody else's. I mean, we're out there all doing the same thing. It comes down to the relationship side of the client. And because we don't have these secrets, it's a very friendly environment. I mean, in Houston, there are a number of firms. HFF is one of our biggest competitors, but we're all kind of friendly competitors. We'll compete on clients, sure, but we're not really competing against each other to the point where, you know, everyone goes to opposite ends of opposite corners of the room. It's a very friendly, open type environment because it's based off of relationships. And if somebody tries to steal a client away from us, if we're asleep at the wheel and not really servicing that client very well, shame on us. It gives Mike's firm or Janelle's firm the opportunity to come in and take some business away from us. But it is really based on the relationship end of it.
Any questions right now? So thinking about folks looking at the job market right now, tips, thoughts when someone's coming in your door, what makes them stand out to you? Someone who you say, this is someone either before they come in the door, someone I want to meet with, or when you have that meeting, someone who you say, this is someone who I think we should really take a long look at.
I would say before someone even gets in the door, so before we've actually gotten a chance to sit down and talk to them, there are a couple things that I know probably any recruiter or any hiring manager is going to say is important, that actually ends up foreshadowing how someone is once you hire them. So attention to detail is a big one. Your resume is essentially you until we meet you or talk to you. And so I don't know why this actually still happens, but people still, in this day of spell check, send in resumes that have typos or incomplete sentences. And it just makes me feel like, did you read this before you emailed it to me? And I mean, that makes me feel like you either aren't that serious about applying to this job, you're not taking yourself seriously, or you just kind of don't care, really. And so, again, attention to detail is a big one. Also, folks who can tailor their resume, and tailor doesn't mean fabricate or lie, I'm just gonna say that. But folks who, look at the job that you're applying for, right? And try to bring out those skills in your resume that we're looking for. Right, so if you know that you're looking for, you're applying to one of our financial analyst positions, it's a lot of financial statement analysis. I mean, analyst is in the job title. And so, we encourage folks, if you've taken accounting courses, list those on your resume. We love to see that. That jumps out at most managers. If you're applying for a real estate job, if you're coming out of school, if you've taken real estate finance classes, put that on there. Just try to help us do the work, because if it's easier for me to just pick up your resume and connect the dots with very little thought of my own, that is just making my whole day, and it makes it easier. And so people like to see that, because again, we can start to see what kind of person you are and what kind of hire you're going to be just from that one piece of paper, and that's before we even see you. So I would encourage you, take that very seriously. Whatever your written product is that you're submitting, whether there's a writing sample, your resume, cover letter, just take those things very seriously, because if you don't, you may not even get, chances are you won't get an in-person interview. And then, of course, once we meet you, we all talked about what we're looking for in terms of people who are go-getters and things like that. But I just encourage you guys, be yourselves. Right? Not everybody's going to be a cheerleader. Not everybody's going to be, super serious. Just be yourself. Most hiring managers end up hiring based on their fit or their connection with that person. So that doesn't mean, again, that you're going to sort of create things to have in common with the hiring manager, but you want to be hired by a hiring manager that feels like they fit with you. And so the way to do that is to make sure that you're being yourself. You don't want to present one thing to us that gets you hired, and then it's just totally clashes with the culture or the environment in your office, because every single one of our offices has a totally different culture. So again, interview us as we're interviewing you. We try to be ourselves when we're talking to you. We try to present the Wells Fargo that you're going to get. And so we want you to present the candidate that we're ultimately going to end up with, because you're all great. So don't worry about it.
Janelle, agree with everything you said. Some additional pointers. If you're applying for or considering getting into either the real estate analytical side of the business or the underwriting side of the business, I mean, personally, I look for what are some of those additional skills that you have. And if you're going to be an analyst, you need to know Excel. If you have any exposure or any experience with Argus, which is kind of the industry-wide tool for cash flow projections, those will immediately stand out on resumes. When we're hiring in the mortgage banking group, I'll tell you that's what the producers are telling the recruiters they want. They want somebody that is proficient in Excel. Argus proficiency is great, but you can kind of learn that on the job. But it's critical that you're able to come in, and Maxie said this, that she spends a lot of time crunching numbers. That's what we use to crunch numbers. I mean, we're doing that day in and day out. So you have that in addition to your accounting and your real estate courses. And if you did any projects while you were in school, whether it was a team project or an individual project that was real estate related, you can always attach, here's a sample of work product that we did in our real estate group. I mean, that again helps us understand your knowledge of the real estate business, the commercial real estate business, and it can help that resume go from maybe the bottom or the side stack to the top of the stack, because Those are just 2 or 3 real easy things that that's kind of the first thing that we look for, circle it on the resume, and then we kind of start the process from there.
And keep in mind, too, that we're looking at a resume literally in 30 seconds. Within 30 seconds, you're really kind of making a quick gathering saying, is this someone I can use now? Because it's someone I can use later, or if it's never going to happen, it just pushes it aside. So you want to make it concise. You want to be very comfortable with everything that's on that resume, because you'll be surprised, you'll be very surprised sometimes what some hiring manager will ask you about some minute point. So you want to be very comfortable on there. Yes, we know you're going to embellish a little bit, but if you're putting something on there that you really can't comfortably talk about, don't do it. And be prepared that they will ask you all kinds of crazy questions. And, you know, for those of you who've had some great obviously internships are wonderful, and not everybody can have an internship. So wherever you can possibly, we're looking to differentiate self from the competition. So if you're looking for that first job, and maybe you're an undergraduate looking for the first position, and maybe you'll have just a limited amount of experience in real estate, but maybe you've had to work, I call it work and do it the hard work. Maybe you've had to work through school, maybe you've had to do 10 jobs. One of the executives on the first panel talked about he was mowing lawns. And one of the other young ladies talking about the first job was she needed to pay the rent. We understand that. Don't disregard that. And when you're talking about looking at work ethic, you heard it consistently here, work ethic. I had a young family friend send me her resume the other day, and she wanted me to take a look at it. And I happened to know her, and she was actually looking for a marketing position. But I was looking at her resume, and I said, well, he had a couple of great internships here, but limited, understandable. And I said, well, look, Alice, haven't you worked, literally you've been working as a waitress or bartender, whatever you got to do. I know you work 40, 50, 60 hours a week while you're going through school. I said, you didn't put that on the resume. I didn't think it was relevant. Well, it may not be relevant to your job in marketing, but it's relevant to talking about the character, your character. You're going to work hard. You're not going to give up. You're going to do things the hard way. So yes, those things that are directly related to the industry are great to highlight. Obviously, the technical aspects, absolutely. But on that first or second job, don't discount the fact that don't disregard some other hard work that you've done that maybe not be directly related to the industry. It's all talks about who you are. I said before, Janelle said about being yourself. This is who I am, a hardworking person. I want to come here, I want to learn, I want to work hard for you.
I did take off that I was a fry cook at Long John Silver's, and I had to wear a pirate hat, but that's not on my resume anymore.
There you go. Yeah.
What's really great is I think that we'll have time for one more question, but it would have been great had that been the last line.
There you go.
All right, so I want to ask the hard questions here. So a couple things. So if you're trying to get your resume noticed, a lot of people are trying to make calls to friends to call you and sort of back channel some of the folks who are in the hiring positions. How does that work? Does that reflect well in terms of being resourceful and having a network? So that's question one. And then question two is, the offer comes in. Okay, you guys make the offer. What do you expect from a negotiation perspective? Do you expect the students to come back? How far can they push before they start to look greedy? And but how much do you actually prefer that they do that, because that shows that they have some tenacity, and they have to negotiate for everything they do in their professional careers anyway. So is this emblematic of their abilities at that point?
Good questions. I will say the number one rule for both of those is probably know thy company, because every company is going to feel a little bit different about those. There'll be some common themes, but so I'll say probably how I feel, and I would encourage you also to check with our recruiters when we're upstairs, and then these guys will let you know what their thoughts are. There's a certain level of resourcefulness I think that everybody appreciates, right? Because as was said here, we've all been there. Right? Everybody's come out of school looking for a job, their first job, their second job, whichever. So I think it's completely fine if you know someone that works at the company, or if you have a friend that's in our analyst program, for example. There's absolutely nothing wrong with using that person to help you figure out who are the people you need to get your resume to, or you should have coffee with, or whatever. So by all means, I would say if you have those readily available resources, there's no reason you wouldn't use them. You don't want to overuse them, you know, and get like stalker status or anything like that, but you definitely, you know, you want to be wise about it, especially if this is like the company you're really interested in. There's nothing wrong with engaging with folks you know and trying to send emails directly to a recruiter or something like that. With negotiations, once the offer letter is in your hand, that's a touchy subject. It will, again, vary probably depending on the company, also depending on the position that you're applying for. So our analyst program, as you might imagine, with most analyst programs, there's a very defined band within which analysts get paid based on your location and the program that you're in. So with those positions, there's not, in most cases, there's not a ton of room. It's sort of take it or leave it. You know, but again, we have a very defined, well-prescribed process for hiring analysts and associates, so that's how it is. For other companies, I know it can work differently. I think if you're relocating, let's say, and you're wondering if they can maybe help you out with some relocation bonus, I mean, you know, if you don't ask, you don't get. I think it's okay to say that, and then the answer is either yes or no. But I don't think you want to start sort of nickel and diming the company, especially if it's a company you really want to work for, over like a couple grand or so, because then for some hiring managers, that can sort of come off the wrong way.
I would definitely say if you can connect the dots within the organization, do it. I get calls and I get emails quite frequently from people saying, I hear you're hiring an analyst in Denver. I've got, you know, my son, or it's a friend of a friend, really wants to come work for CBRE. We take those calls and we will pass that information off to whoever is doing the hiring. And at least in our group, it's not handing it back to HR. It's actually going to the individual. If it's a producer or a line of business leader who's doing the hiring, I'll make the call. Listen, I got a call and it was a personal reference. I don't know the individual, but you know, it's connecting the dots. It definitely helps. And it doesn't have to be a direct connection. It could be an indirect connection. Because again, what you're trying to do is get any shred of advantage you possibly can over the others that are applying for the position. And if it works, great. I mean, we actually would like to have someone call and say, I happen to know that they have 2 hands, 2 feet, 2 eyes, and a brain. Mm-hmm. That's great, because you've just confirmed the 3 big things that we're looking for. So, you know, it can work to your advantage. On the offer front, we have a range as well, and we probably very rarely give the offers on the very high end of the range. We're probably going to be more in the mid part of the range. There is some, I would think that there is some room for negotiation, but if you are going to negotiate, explain why. You know, I feel that I feel that I'm worth it. Or all you have to do is say, I have an offer from HFF for $5,000 more, and we'll give you 6. So I mean, that's an easy way to do it as well. You know, use that to try to get the most that you can. But another thing that I found that has been creative is when we're hiring folks, they say, listen, I really was hoping to have more, but if I come in and I do a really good job, can I get a performance bonus after 6 or 12 months? And we structure those because, you know what, those individuals, I don't know of a single instance where they did not earn that performance bonus. And it kind of, it really, I think for us, it made me in a couple of instances say, you're taking the offer even though you wanted more, but you're going to come in and work harder and prove that you deserve more. Then we structure in some performance bonuses as well. I mean, I would say you don't have to take it just because they put it in front of you, but be prepared to defend why you think you need more, and also be prepared for them to say, I'm sorry, this is the best that we can do. Sometimes that happens as well.
Yep. And the last word, Mike?
Yep. Actually, just to add to your 2 questions, I guess looking at networking is always wonderful. But then you say, okay, how do I network? Okay, well, if you do happen to know someone who's in this industry, wonderful. If someone owes you a favor, take advantage of it. Most times, though, you don't know someone who owes you a favor. So how do you approach someone? You meet one of us at an event, at a cocktail party, at a barbecue. People love to give advice. They don't like to do favors. And so when you meet someone, literally, you go up and talk to them and say, if you know they're in the industry, ask them about them. They like to talk about themselves, too. So how did you happen to get in this industry? What do you do? And they said, well, look, I have a good approach that might be to say, I need some advice. Do you have, and people love to give advice. Would you have some advice for me? How can I help you? Well, I'm looking for a job. This is my particular background. Do you have any suggestions for me? And it gives the person an opening saying, if they don't, say, I'm sorry, I wish you the best of luck, but no. Or it's a comfortable way that you're not asking for a favor. You're saying you're asking for some advice. And so often, anyone that's been in the working has been through the same thing you are about networking and contacts. So that's a great way of kind of having that approach. And if you know somebody in there, ask them. In terms of negotiation, I really echo the same thing. There's always a little bit of a range, but you always want to don't spend too much time on the front end. You know that somewhere in the front end, we're going to be asking the question is, all right, well, you know, what are you looking for? And give me an idea of what you're looking for. Don't get hung up on that. Do everything you can to get the job offer. Then you can come back and ask a lot of questions. Well, what about the benefits package? What about the compensation? What about the reviews? Don't spend time doing it up front. You're selling yourself. And now it's a matter of, we're now making you the offer. Now you can ask those questions respectfully. You know, what is the opportunity for growth? What are the ranges? Where do we go from here? Those types of things. You can ask a lot of, those are good questions to ask. Because we want to reinforce the fact that you are paying your dues, but you want to get ahead. And we know, we said before, we're going to bring you on board. This is a start, which means there's the only place to go is up.
I mean, one final, on that note, this business does function off of incentive compensation. So asking for performance bonuses or some sort of incentive, I think every single firm functions that way. So, right. Mike, to your point, it's all part of, so if I take this, is there an incentive is there some incentive compensation? Is there some bonus? Is there a plan? I don't know of anyone in the space that doesn't function that way.
And so there's more time to continue this conversation upstairs in just a minute. First, two things. One, want to thank the panel very much. And two, I want to thank Matt Seifer from Georgetown for hosting us here. Thank you so much, Matt.
Thank you. My name's Matt Seifer, for those aren't from Georgetown here, and obviously want to thank all the students for coming. Really want to thank the Mortgage Bankers Association, Jamie Woodwell in particular. He and I have been really good friends since I arrived here a couple years ago. You know, all the panelists and the companies here, I think this is a great opportunity to really learn about the business and to have people here offering opportunities from an employment perspective. So I think the fun part begins now. Go up 2 floors to the Fisher Colloquium for the second part of the reception. So again, thank you very much, and it was great.